realization of the brotherhood of man.
Gosh, Bruce, yes. Right.
Come on in. Have a seat on the couch. Enjoy the stream from the On Fek Circle, presented by JFtC and the Jays from the Couch radio podcast. This particular adventure, or misadventure, depending on your point of view, streams to you live at the Jays from the Couch YouTube channel, 7 p.m. Eastern times every Tuesday evening. You can also pick up the live feed on the Jays from the Couch Facebook page, as well as if you're out there on the Twitter sphere, go to @JaysFromCouch. I'm even annoying you there. I am your host, the Feckless Wonder, Steve Fek. And I want to point out that since Jays from the Couch dominates the 7 p.m. Eastern time slot, you need to, every 7 p.m. Eastern time, check out for content. On Sunday, it's the Mothership program, the Jays from the Couch radio podcast that's hosted by our founder and fearless leader, Sean Doyle. He always brings in a rotating cast of fellow couchers. You'll like what they write on JFtC. You'll love hearing them talk about it. And at the end of every episode, there's a hot take that you can then take away from that particular podcast, and you can think about it and make you get even more anxious about the next show the following Sunday. If you don't catch the live stream, Apple, Stitcher, Podbean, Google, all the better podcast providers have JFtC. And if they don't have it on the podcast provider you're using now, get rid of it. But the cherry on the Sunday, even though it doesn't happen on Sunday, happens on Thursdays, 7 p.m. Eastern time. It is the Sunny Side of the Dome, hosted by my friend and colleague, Karen Suter. She is the gal with Blue Jays colored glasses, but it's just not her Blue Jay fandom, which is probably unrivaled anywhere that I've come across. She knows her baseball. She knows her Jays. And you will always come away with some information that either you hadn't thought of or you just didn't know. So that's Sunny Side of the Dome, Thursdays, 7 p.m. Eastern time, which will soon be known as Jays from the Couch time. This is episode 6, a six-pack, if you will. No doubt Sean Doyle thinks about a six-pack every time he knows I have a show coming up. But overall, it's been a lot of fun. It is a conversation. Sometimes it might seem like I'm talking at you. That is not what I want. If you're on the live stream and you can send a question or a comment or a critique, by all means do so. I don't care if you call me an idiot. Just explain to me why I'm an idiot. And it shouldn't be that hard. But again, I want it to be a conversation, and I will always tend to bring a point of view that perhaps you had not considered before. I'm not trying to be outrageous. I'm not trying to be, difficult or negative or American or whatever you want to describe me. I just want you to really think about what's going on with our favorite team, the Toronto Blue Jays. Yes, you see the little maps behind me there. I am an American Blue Jays fan. Have been since, I started following them, the Jays in 79. I kind of still cheated with my old love, the Red Sox, because Yaz was still playing. But really from 84 on, except for maybe a brief flirtation with Ichiro, it's been Blue Jays all the way as far as American League Baseball is concerned for the Feckless Wonder. This week's episode, we're going to take a look at how the Blue Jays stack up against the American League East rivals. Yes, the Jays play everybody in the American League, and you have to think about where people are going to fall as far as wild card consideration goes. And yeah, there's interleague play, so there's National League teams. But really, the Jays have to worry about the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Rays, and even have to worry about the Orioles. They do have some young talent, so you need to even worry about them. Eventually, you have to worry about them more in a couple of years, but you need to worry about those teams first. Those are the teams that are going to stand in your way of a division title. And American League East, traditionally, probably the toughest in baseball. I mean, yes, the NL East is really good. They have their ups and downs, though. Just like we have the Orioles, they have the now improving Marlins, but you never know with the Marlins. The Mets always have found a way to screw things up. The Phillies are the Phillies. National League Central had some good years. The AL Central is now ascending, and the West Coast teams, they play too late for a lot of us to pay attention most times. But I mean, there's good teams there. NL West, Dodgers and Padres. AL West, Astros are still hanging in there. Trash cans or not, they're a pretty good team. The Angels can only get better. The Mariners, if their owner keeps their mouth shut, could have a really good year. And so there's a lot to consider, but it's the AL East that I want to match things up against. And as you have probably figured out from previous shows that you have caught or from my articles on JFtC.com, I'm not a big analytics guy. I mean, I'm a big believer in traditional stats. Anything with a plus or anything that's weighted, anything that has to have an additional explanation, I'm going to weigh with a little less, I don't want to say legitimacy because that's not fair, because analytics makes some great points, but you understand what I'm saying. I'm not going to pay much attention to those kind of things. So I don't want to hear about WOBA or ex-OBA or Manitoba or whatever OBA you want to come up with when we're talking about baseball. I'm looking really at the basic stats. Runs created is fine by me. I don't need runs created plus. I don't need weighted runs created plus. I don't need expected runs created plus. I just want how many runs are being created, how many games are being won, how many games are being lost. It keeps it really, really simple. Remember back in the days when it was real simple just to be a baseball fan? You looked at the back of the baseball card or you opened up the sports page. Yes, kiddies, there used to be actual stories and words on pieces of paper, on dead trees, that we would be able to read every day to find out what happened, rather than just hitting a button on our phone and finding out what the score is or even what the pitch count is in any given game. Those were the good old days. The good old days. They're gone forever. We got to deal with what we got to deal with now. But let's get down to the meat and potatoes of this. What I did is I took from the Zips projections on Fangraphs. They listed what the players' wins against replacement figures would be. And that's another metric that I look at very closely. More in season, definitively at the end of the season, as far as any sort of projections, it's just that. Like I had a fantasy sports business for many years, and we used to put out newsletters. We didn't project numbers. We kept it simple. Plus, the player should do better. Minus, the player's going to perform worse than he did the previous year. And if it was just like a little dash, it is what it is. So again, I'm not going to weigh too much on projections, but I thought it's important to figure out what they're projecting teams in the AL East to do versus what I expect the teams are going to do. And for that, we're going to talk about the Fek Universal Projections, or the shortened acronym is the Fek U projections, because depending, again, on your point of view, you might give me some credit and say, boy, those Fek U projections, man, they were pretty spot on, as you go back and watch this episode again during the season, because Lord knows you can't get enough of this, can you? Or you might just want to say, Fek U, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You've lost your mind. And we're going to break down the positions as they would appear on a scorecard. Again, kiddies, going back, scorecards were how you used to write down lineups when you were actually at a baseball game or even at home watching a game. And you would mark down your own little private history of what's going on in that game. And you would decide, when somebody struck out, if they struck out looking, you did a backward K rather than a regular K. Or if you wanted to mark it was a line drive, it was, hit to the warning track, you could put different things next to the outcome of the play. And you would have that for posterity to go back and say, I remember this game. And you can tell by what you wrote down what was going on. You might even be able to tell by the mustard stains you dropped on the scorecard exactly when you left for a couple of plays. So there's some missing gaps in the action to get a hot dog and a beer. So that we're going to kind of go old school that way too. And we're going to start with position number 1, as it should be, and that's pitching. And I did break it down. I have a question here from Bill. How can Jay's starting pitching match up after Ryu? Ugh. We're going to get into this here, Bill, a little bit. Especially at the end, your point I will go back to, because I really think as far as wins and losses, the pitching is going to cost the Jays in the long run. But Robbie Ray has potential. Nate Pearson is the future. Tanner Roark, and I may be the only Blue Jay fan still left that believes in Tanner Roark, has had major league success. He's not an analytics darling. He doesn't put up dazzling numbers. He somehow finds ways to put his team in position to win most years. Not 2020, but there. And then really starting pitching in the eyes of the front office may just fall back to, let's get as many innings as we can. We'll get through the batting order twice before we pull them and start using the all-star game approach to bringing in our pitchers. You're going to see a lot of short starts. You're going to see a lot of 3 innings. They're going to try to get creative, primarily because they didn't go out and land that number 2 starter, and maybe even a number 5 starter wouldn't have hurt. But when you're looking at the Fangraphs projections, I took the first 2 people in the rotation and their primary reliever. So when you're looking at the rotation, the Yankees at 8.3 WAR combined for Cole and Luis Severino. Those were the 2 highest rated starters. Most of that is Garrett Cole, obviously. So, and just so you have an idea, the Blue Jays ranked 2nd in WAR with Ryu and Ray. Ryu's WAR and Ray's WAR combined equaled Garrett Cole's projected WAR. So it's going to be a challenge, at least at the front of the rotation. They were followed by the Rays with Glasnow and Archer. The Red Sox, I just picked Eovaldi and Rodriguez because those are 2 guys that are probably going to pitch, and they had the 2 highest WARs. In the Orioles, it's John Means and a whole lot of prayers, I guess. Lopez was their 2nd highest going that way. I believe, and here are our Fek U projections for pitchers, that the Rays actually have the best starting pitcher. And now for the Fek U projections, I'm looking at the entire staff, followed by the Yankees. The Yankees could easily drop further down on this list because, a lot of their pitchers have serious injury histories. So who knows what's going to happen? I have the Blue Jays 3rd because of all the questions, as Bill brought up, what's going on behind Ryu. What are they doing with their bullpen? They've got some great bullpen pieces, but who knows? And then the Red Sox and the lowly Orioles. And then later on, when we rank the teams all together, it's rather than WAR and point numbers, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Each position is going to earn a point. Bullpens, a little bit different. I took who their primary reliever was going to be. In the case of the Blue Jays, ranking at the top, newly signed Kirby Yates at 1.7. The Rays, I chose Nick Anderson with the highest WAR. Aroldis Chapman for the Yankees. Adam Ottavino for the Red Sox, not necessarily their closer, but their prime leverage reliever. And Tommy Scott, young arm for the Orioles. But if you look at the bullpen, I have the Blue Jays at the top of the list. Because, yes, you have Kirby Yates. You also have Tyler Chatwood. You've got the wonderful Jordan Romano. You have Rafael Dolis. You have a bunch of pitchers. Notice that Yamaguchi, I did not mention because we let him get away for nothing. followed by the Rays. And then the Red Sox, Yankees. I think the Yankees bullpen is going to be a problem. And then the Orioles. Watch out for the Red Sox. And you're going to see that throughout this little show. Adam Ottavino is going to be an all-star pitcher for in the Red Sox scheme of things, and he could make some big differences going forward. Let's go to position number 2 now, the catchers. According to Zips War or F War or whatever war they're talking about, Christian Vasquez of the Red Sox at 2.6 is the top catcher. Danny Jansen slotted in at number 2, followed by the Orioles' young catcher Rutschman, Gary Sanchez, and the underrated Mike Zunino of the Rays. According to the Fek U projections, again at the top, you find the Blue Jays. I probably should black my face. It probably makes it much easier for you to have to watch this. Followed by the Red Sox because of Adam Ottavino. Then the Rays, the Orioles, and the Yankees. That's how little I think of the Yankees bullpen. The Orioles bullpen's got some interesting young arms. The Rays always figure it out. I don't know. Maybe they just went a little too far this time as far as letting some veteran short innings guys go. In the starting rotation, bullpen could get tired. But I think the Blue Jays bullpen, the only way the Blue Jays make the playoffs this year is if the bullpen performs above what expectations are even. So that's another positive thing. So there's some positive things so far with the Blue Jays as far as pitching goes. It doesn't answer the question as to who the number 2 starter is, though. For first base, Vladdy had the highest projected WAR at 2.6. He's actually tied with Luke Voit of the Yankees. And then you've got Ryan Mountcastle of the Orioles, the Rays' Ghost Buster, He-Man Choi, and I put Marwin Gonzalez as the Red Sox first baseman. I know that may not work out that way, but they didn't really have anybody that I could think of that was going to be their standout, absolutely have the job first baseman. So I went with Marwin Gonzalez. That was a good signing for the Red Sox. And for the Fek U projections, once again, we've got a Blue Jay at the top. I have the Yankees and Luke Voit, who's a terrific hitter, at 2, Orioles 3. I have the Red Sox number 4 because I do think that Marwin Gonzalez is going to have a good year there. And the Rays, Choi, he's fun to watch. He's not that great of a first baseman. And honestly, I thought 2.6 was kind of a low projection for Vladdy. Yes, he's been inconsistent. Yeah, he's not a great defender at first, so I'm sure that weighed into that projected WAR. But I think Vladdy Guerrero is the best first baseman in the East. Second base got tricky for a bunch of reasons. Technically, LeMahieu may not only play second base. He could even spell at first base and at third base a little bit. I put Marcus Semien there because, in theory, he asked to play second base when he signed. He, well, to the purposes, would be better at second if he's not going to be a shortstop. So I let him go there. He was a little bit behind LeMahieu. LeMahieu topped it at 4.3. Rays, Brendan Lau, Luis Urias for the Orioles, and the Red Sox, they have down at 0.5 WAR for Kike Hernandez. And when you look at the Fek U projections, those numbers aren't exactly the same. Because at second base, I have the Yankees at top with LeMahieu, absolutely. Notice where I have the Red Sox and Kike Hernandez. I have them second. I think he's the second best second baseman in the East right now. Now, if Biggio would be left alone and allowed to play his primary position, second base, he would be there, followed by the Rays. The Blue Jays and Marcus Semien, I've wasted enough showtime the last couple of weeks. I've said what I said. I believe what I believe. His biggest value is getting traded at the trading deadline for a third baseman or a pitcher. And then the Orioles down there in the bottom slot. So Blue Jays faring okay. Again, if it wasn't Semien, it was Biggio. I think those numbers, I think Biggio, I would have him as the number 2 second baseman. I'd consider him making the number 1 second baseman. But that's not how it worked out. Position 5, third base, on your scorecard. Rafael Devers shouldn't be a surprise to the Red Sox. Kevin Biggio, based on his projected WAR, which I'm assuming weighs him playing at second base rather than at third base, was at 3.2 behind Devers at 3.6. That's pretty respectable for a guy that doesn't play third base. Urshela of the Yankees, and then the Orioles and the Rays with nondescript guys. I'm not even going to bother giving you their names because you'll see games. They're not all that great. The Fek U projections, much different. I have the Red Sox, number 1 at third base. Rafael Devers shouldn't be a shock. Number 2, I have Gio Urshela. I think he was undervalued by projected WAR. Blue Jays had a chance at him, so they would have had a third baseman, though I don't know that anybody really expected that to happen. Biggio slides to third only because I think so highly of Urshela. Does not mean that Biggio is going to be a bad third baseman. Then the Orioles and the Rays. So going around the infield, been looking pretty good so far. At shortstop, Fangraphs WAR looks at Gleyber Torres as the highest ranked AL East shortstop, followed not that far behind by Xander Bogaerts, our own Bo Bichette. Pretty competitive position, actually. Most of the infield was. The Rays, Willy Adames, and the Orioles, Freddie Galvis, an underrated, real good major league shortstop. Not a star, not flashy, a good major league shortstop. These you may have some questions about. So I throw up the shortstops. And this is not a knock on Bo Bichette. He is the star of the future for the Blue Jays. He is the face of the franchise going forward. So this is by no means a knock on Bo Bichette. When I put up my shortstops, I think everybody would agree. Oops, sorry about that, guys. See, the high-tech things I'm still getting used to, so you have to bear with me on this. I think you would all agree that Bogaerts is the best shortstop in the East, as of right now. Another year from now, I think the top name is going to be Bo Bichette. Willy Adames, talk about an underrated player according to the analytics. He is just awesome. And Gleyber Torres, if he was a second baseman, he might be the best second baseman in the AL East, but they're playing him at short. And he just doesn't get it done defensively. I don't care how well he hits. Okay? And then the Orioles, Freddie Galvis, you're not looking for him to be flashy and be ranked among the top players. You just want it to be what it is. All right. Move on to the outfield. Left field, kind of low across the board for WAR in the AL East in many ways. Randy Arozarena had the highest projected WAR. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. was 2. He was tied with the guy from the Orioles who I just totally drew a blank on. Santander, I guess his name is. I say, I'm getting sleepy. The best left fielder is going to be Clint Frazier. Aaron Boone's come out and said Clint Frazier is the everyday left fielder. He is going to be the best left fielder in the East, followed by Randy Arozarena. Lourdes Gurriel Jr., good player. Breakout year, you could say, last year. He's not going to be better than Frazier or Arozarena. Then the Orioles and Red Sox left fielders follow behind there. Franchi Cordero is the new Red Sox left fielder now that Benintendi is gone. In center, it should not be a big shock, especially since we just spent $150 million over 6 years for him. George Springer has the highest WAR, 3.9, followed by Aaron Hicks, Alex Verdugo, Kevin Kiermaier, and Austin Hayes of the Orioles. I agree. Springer is top of the food chain in center field in the AL East. I have Verdugo as the second best center fielder. Again, this is mainly eye test. Okay. And then you've got Kevin Kiermaier. If he could stay on the field healthy, he would have to be near the top as well. And then the Yankees and Orioles center fielders. Right field should be no shock. It's Aaron Judge of the Yankees by a large margin. A large margin. I used Randall Grichuk in my analysis for the Fek U projections. Teoscar Hernandez and Grichuk are projected with the same WAR, according to Fangraphs. So it's kind of a dead heat with those guys, depending on whoever they play out there. And then everybody else, other than Austin Meadows, is pretty nondescript. So I have Judge at the top. I have Austin Meadows as the second best right fielder in the division, followed by either Grichuk or Hernandez or any combination thereof. And then the Orioles and the Red Sox outfielders. Red Sox outfield in transition. Orioles outfield, very young. Not really sure what they're going to do. Andrew Sisco could be interesting there. And as at the DH slot, Mike Stanton, again, pretty obvious. JD Martinez is, I guess, coming off the bad year, really has a pretty low WAR. I slid Tio as the Jays DH, Yandy Diaz. Trey Mancini, because we're not sure whether he's going to be able to play every day in the outfield, is the choice for the Orioles DH. And because of that, you may not like how I rank some of these players. Stanton, best DH in the East, probably at this point. JD Martinez is not that far behind. I put Trey Mancini third. I didn't want to put him in right field because I don't know whether he's going to be able to play much coming off of the cancer surgery and the chemo. I have whoever's the DH is, whether it be Hernandez or Rowdy Tellez, fourth best. The Rays, they're going to have some problems scoring runs. So that's the biggest problem for the Rays. So what does that mean? You may say nothing. I say it gives us an idea of where our Blue Jays are going to stand. And based on the ranking of 5 for the best, 4, 3, 2, 1, the Fek U projections have the Blue Jays having the best roster, at least as far as their starting roster, followed by the Yankees, the Red Sox jumping over the Rays. The Rays are going to have problems scoring runs. And then the lowly Orioles, another long year in Baltimore, but they're not very far off. So fear not if you're an Oriole fan. I'm not sure why you would be one, but fear not. It's going to get better. But again, as I said earlier, it's wins and losses that really matter. So cutting away the best players and projected starters or whatever it would be, and WAR and my Fek U projections for the various players by position, what does it mean for the AL East standings? You're not going to like this, so sit tight. I say the Yankees at 89 and 73 win the East. That's right, 89 wins. No 90-win teams, because really this division is going to beat the hell out of each other throughout the year. I have the Blue Jays at 87 and 75. That's questionable for a wild card spot, but it's possible. I have the Red Sox making a significant jump. Don't sleep on them, especially when Sale comes back. You know, talk about a trading deadline ad. He's as big as you'd get coming off his Tommy John. The Rays will be a 500 team. The Orioles, 60 wins at best. That might actually be giving them more credit and having Trey Mancini come back. So what do you think? Getting back to Bill's question earlier, I have the Jays with the 87 wins because of the serious questions around their pitching, especially their rotation. I am not a fan of this piggybacking 2 times through the order, Ross Atkins inning diet approach to roster construction for the pitching staff. I think it's going to come back and it's going to hurt them in the long run. I don't think that 87 wins gets them one of the playoff spots. Obviously, I want them to be there. I'm not sure that it gets it done. But you've now gone through a whole episode. You have time to digest the Fek U projections. Let us know what you think. If you want to reach me directly, it's at US of J's on Twitter. You can go to the US of J's Facebook page. Obviously, you can leave comments. The stream will still be up there on the YouTube channel. It will be there on Twitter. It'll be there on Facebook. We want to hear from you. It's not me talking at you. I want to talk with you. My thanks to Sean Doyle and to the Jays from the Couch staffers, all my colleagues have been very, very supportive. I am honored and humbled to have a chance to talk Blue Jays baseball with you on a weekly basis. This is the On Fek Circle. We come at you every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on all the said platforms, YouTube channel, Facebook page, Twitter. Always go every day to JFtC.com. Look for the best articles, and the primary source for Blue Jay news you can find is Blue Jays. JFtC.com, excuse me. And this Thursday, you can't miss it, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Please check out Sunny Side of the Dome. Karen Suter, the gal with Blue Jay colored glasses. She will teach you a lot about Blue Jays baseball. The podcast number 250 coming up this Sunday. Jays from the Couch radio podcast. I'm Steve Fek. I'm going to light up a victory cigar. Talk to you next week.